The first 2024 presidential debate between the 45th and 46th presidents of the United States took place in Atlanta.
Also in Atlanta for the debate were several possible frontrunners for Donald Trump's VP, and joining us now is one of them, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Senator, welcome. Thank you for being with us. First and foremost, give us your take. What did you think of last night's debate?
Well, hello, guys. Thanks for having me. I mean, look, I think it was a masterful performance by Donald Trump. I think what you really saw on display was two critical differences between Trump and Biden. The first is Trump has real compassion for the people who have suffered under Biden policies. You heard him talk about calling the mother whose daughter was killed by an illegal alien, a complete lack of compassion by contrast from Joe Biden. I think the other thing the American people saw was a guy who has the energy to do the job and do it well. And there are a lot of stories that have been written about Joe Biden's performance. I think the reason why is by contrast to Donald Trump, you see the energy of Trump versus the lack of energy of Biden. And I think a lot of Americans are asking themselves, how did we get to a world with such chaos and instability? And the answer is we swapped out a guy who has the energy to do the job in Donald Trump with a guy who doesn't. And Americans get an opportunity to make that trade again. And hopefully they're going to make the right decision because I think the country needs it.
Earlier this week, the former president told reporters that he has chosen his running mate, and you've said in the past that you would be disappointed if it's not you. Have you spoken to the president or his team?
Well, I haven't spoken to Donald Trump about being his vice president. Certainly, if he asked me, I'd be very interested in the job. But what I'd be really disappointed in is if Donald Trump's not elected. He's got a lot of great people that he could choose from. But the most important thing is that we get better leadership in the Oval Office. And I think Trump really does represent, as so many of us saw last night, a really radical departure in a good direction for the American people. So this is not academic. Of course, we're asking and talking about who won the debate, and rightfully so. But I think what the debate really shows is that one guy has the ability, the energy, and the determination to do the job, and one guy just doesn't. And I think our best argument to the American people is, if you want to get back to peace and prosperity, Donald Trump's your guy, and we have to make that argument as hard as possible, whoever his vice presidential nominee is.
Now, Trump's relationship with his first vice president obviously soured. Mike Pence has said he is not going to be endorsing Trump this go round. The former president, of course, encouraged his supporters to go after Pence on January 6th when he refused to comply with Trump's demands that he not certify the election results. So are you concerned that Trump could turn on you, too, if you are to be his vice president?
Well, look, first of all, I think it's a mistake that Mike Pence is not endorsing Donald Trump, but I also think that people underestimate the extent to which the reason Mike Pence has been not as big of a fan of Donald Trump has nothing to do with January the 6th. It has to do with the fact that Trump is the candidate for peace in the world, and Mike Pence, for his entire career in public service, has constantly advocated for escalatory wars all over the world. So this is about Mike Pence having a disagreement with Donald Trump, and I think, unfortunately, the media has turned this into a much bigger deal than it actually should be.
So with that said, why do you think you are the best person for the job of vice president?
Well, DeMarco, look, I appreciate the question, but I'm not running to be vice president. I'm senator representing the people of Ohio. I like my job, and I think I'm doing a good job at it. But I think, importantly, what I am trying to do is get people to recognize that the best way for me to be able to ensure that the people of Ohio have a life of peace and prosperity is to make sure we get a president who actually advocates for those goals in November of 2024.
Let's talk about some of the issues that are defining this race. You know, we saw the candidates last night squaring off over abortion rights. According to a recent poll, the majority of registered voters believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases. And of course, since Roe was struck down 2 years ago, every time this issue has been on the ballot, abortion rights have won. You know, Democrats are confident this issue is going to help motivate their voters to the polls. You've been outspoken on this issue. Are you concerned that this issue could actually hurt Republicans in the fall?
Well, Mayor, I think it's a really important question, actually highlighting the Ohio ballot provision. I'm pro-life. I want to save as many babies as possible, but I also think that we have to recognize here that the American people are very starkly divided on this. And what is so different about Donald Trump's approach on this issue versus Joe Biden's is he's actually articulating a way for us to find some common ground. He's saying, look, Ohio's going to make different decisions from Virginia, which is going to make different decisions from California. That's the way it should work in a federal republic. But most importantly, we got to respect each other's views and try to find some common ground on this issue.
And speaking of being outspoken, you've been very critical of the former president in the past. At one point, you described him as being an idiot and a moral disaster. What's changed?
Oh, well, what's changed is I saw effective governance. I made those criticisms while he was running for president in 2016, and I was happy to be proven wrong. And I think one of the things we have to get out there and advocate is this was a successful presidency. 4 years of Donald Trump brought peace and prosperity, lower grocery prices, reasonable home prices, and most importantly, you didn't have a war erupting in nearly every corner of the globe. Joe Biden, by contrast, has reversed all of the progress that we made under the Trump presidency. So I think when a guy does a good job, you got to give him credit for it and acknowledge that if he did it again, or if he got the opportunity to do it again, I think he would. And that's why we're trying so hard to get him back in the Oval Office.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your perspective.
Senator, thank you.